Chenxi stood in the small house in the rental house. Outside the window was a dusty sky, and her ears were still chanting the sound of classmates laughing at her. Chenxi, what else can you do besides calculating data? Play games. Stop being rude, games are not something that depends on your brain. She bit her lips tightly, and a light that was unwilling to be lit in her eyes. Today, she wants to prove herself, even if she is just in the virtual world. The holographic helmet, difference yuan, special version is lying quietly on the table. This was bought by her for half a year after she saved food and used it. As a holographic game that spreads the world, Difference Mega is not only a game, but also a data-driven battleground. Top players on the rankings can gain real wealth and even change their fate. Chenxi took a deep breath and put on his helmet, and his mind was instantly pulled into a brand new universe. Welcome to the Difference Yuan, novice player, Chenxi, please confirm the character creation. The cold system prompt sound came, and a vast galaxy appeared in front of Chenxi's eyes, and countless career choices floated in the air: Slayer, Magician, Archer. She hesitated for a moment and chose the Analyst, a job assistant who was so cold that he was almost unquestionable. This career does not have strong attack skills and can understand the details of the battleground through data analysis. To her, this is a natural host. The character was created and the Dawn's consciousness was sent to the novice village, Starry Field. This is a grassland full of life, with low-level wild monsters wandering far away, and the surrounding area is bustling with novices. She looked down at herself. She was wearing a broken cloth, with only a brazed short sword in her hand, and the properties panel was filled with sluggable values of 1 and 2. Her introverted personality made her subconsciously narrow the crowd and speak indifferently. Hey, that bird on that side is standing and fucking. Go and take over the mission. A swordsman in leather armor shouted loudly, his lingering full of mockery. Several players around him burst into laughter. From her like that, I guess I don't know how to operate it. What's the use of choosing an analyst? It's a waste of time. The morning light face was red and she clenched her fists, but she didn't rebel, but just walked silently towards the mission NPC. She knew that it was useless to argue with words, and only actions could change other people's opinions. The NPC Old Village Chief handed her her first mission, killing 5 prairie wolves, winning 10 copper coins and basic experience. There should be no problem for a simple task. Chenxi muttered in a low voice and walked towards the depths of the grassland. However, when she first saw the prairie wolf, her heart still skipped a beat. These wolves were half a head taller than her, with harsh eyes, and the attribute panel showed that their attack power was 3 times that of her. She tried to attack the sword, but was slapped with one claw, and the blood strip instantly dropped 1/3. Damn, this game is too difficult. Chenxi gritted her teeth and got up, hid behind a large stone, and moved quickly in her brain. At this moment, a line of golden small words suddenly appeared in her vision: Eye of Data Activation. It can analyze the target data stream and generate the best strategy. Eye of Data. Chenxi's eyes lit up and he immediately activated the abilities of the grassland wolf. In an instant, the wolf's attribute panel was broken down into a series of data: attack force 12, defense force 5, movement speed 8, weakness, rear leg junction, and the hit rate increased by 30%. In addition, Lianlong's attack mode is parsed out. It attacks every 5 seconds, with the left claw coming out first, and the right claw following in. So that's it, data is my weapon. Chenxi's mouth slightly raised. Her introverted personality made her not good at speaking, but data analysis was her main venue. She quickly formulated a strategy: use the stone to get the position, specialize in the back leg joint, and avoid the 5-second hit. Facing the prairie wolf again, Chenxi no longer fought hard, but instead slid to the back side and stabbed the back leg accurately. The wolf let out a wail, and its movement speed dropped significantly. She seized the opportunity and hit the same position in succession several consecutive shots, and the wolf's blood strip was quickly cleared. The killing prompt pops up: experience +5, drop wolf teeth *1. It's done. Chenxi relaxed his breath, but the ridicule of the players around him became even louder. it took 3 minutes to kill a wolf, and he was still embarrassed to stand and breathe. Our team has already won 3. Chenxi ignored her and continued to be killed. The eye of data made her more and more efficient. By the time the 5th wolf was, she could already resolve the battle in 1 minute. After the mission was completed, she returned to the village chief to hand in the mission and accidentally heard a broadcast prompt. The small competition in the novice village is about to begin. Challenge the bosses, Rampant Wild Pig King, and the winning streak rewards 100 copper coins and rare equipment. 1. Competition. The morning light is moving. 100 copper coins are a huge sum for novices, not to mention rare equipment. But she also knows that the boss battle is almost a self-killing behavior for novices. On the scene, there were dozens of players discussing the game, and several teams had already started to build it, but only the morning light stood alone, and no one was willing to take her. Hey, that analyst, do you want to participate too? Stop being so arrogant. What can the assisting profession be? Are you shouting 666 from behind? A tall warrior player sneered, and the teammates burst into laughter. Chenxi lowered his head and said nothing, but a stubbornness ignited in his eyes. Or what if I'll team up with you? A crisp female voice rose. Chenxi looked up and saw a girl wearing a mage robe with her ID showing, Xinghui. She walked over with a smile. I think you're quite reasonable when you beat a wolf just now, so it shouldn't be simple. I'm a logistics wizard and I'm responsible for adding blood and buffs. We might be able to cooperate. Chenxi was stunned for a moment. She was introverted and didn't really want to be enthusiastic about this kind of passion, but she still said in a short voice, "Thank you. My name is Chenxi." Okay, Chenxi, let's try it. Even if you can't win, it's still a long experience. Xinghui patted her shoulder, and her happy personality instantly brought the distance between the two people. The competition started soon, and players were sent to a huge round competition venue. In the center was a large wild pig king. The body was as big as a hill, the blood was far away. The attribute panel showed an attack power of up to 30, the defense power was 15, and the scope of collision skills. When other teams saw the data, they sucked in a conservative strategy, to pull hatred and slowly grind blood. Chenxi, what do you think? This guy is not easy to deal with. Xinghui asked in a short voice, her eyes full of trust. Chenxi did not answer directly, but instead developed the eye of data. In an instant, the wild pig king's data spread in front of her eyes. The weakness was on the abdomen, and the defense was only 5, but the attack range covered the front 180 degrees, and a collision occurred every 10 seconds, and there was a 3-second stagnation time after the impact. In addition, there are several available boulders on the ground that can be used to lock. Yinghui, you help me attract hatred, don't resist, run around the field. I will find a chance to attack my abdomen. The 3 seconds after the impact is the best time to output. Chenxi's language is very fast, and his introverted personality is completely replaced by coldness when analyzing. Okay, I'll hear you. Xinghui pointed his head and swayed his staff. A glimmer of light blessed Chenxi, increasing his movement speed by 5%. At the beginning of the battle, the other teams quickly launched their movements, but the Wild Pig King's collision skills were amazing. Several front-row warriors were directly hit and flew, their blood was cleared, and they retreated in an instant. The player discussion slogan of the battle at the scene, "This boss is too distorted, how could a novice beat?" Look, what are the two girls fucking there? One helps the other logistics, be looking for death. Someone noticed Chenxi and Yanhui, and his language was full of disdain. According to the plan, Yang Hui used a small fireball to snatch the Wild Pig King from a distance, successfully holding back the hatred, and then ran away. Chenxi hid behind the huge rock, quietly waiting for the launch of the collision skill. As soon as 10 seconds arrived, the Wild Pig King let out a roar and rushed towards Xinghui, and the ground was shaken. The Wild Pig King fell into a 3-second stalemate. It's now! Chenxi shouted softly, and rushed out from behind the huge rock, and the short sword pierced the Wild Pig King's abdomen. The precise hit point given by the Eye of Data made every attack cause the greatest damage, and the Wild Pig King's blood dropped by a small piece at a speed visible to the naked eye. Bored, how did this bird cause such a high damage? Someone on the side of the field was shocked and looked at Chenxi. The other teams were also stunned. Their teams were 5 or 6 people flowing out, but they didn't even beat Chenxi quickly. Continue. Chenxi was not influenced by the controversy and focused on Yang Hui. Turn another hatred, pay attention to the stone on the left, and don't be stuck. He pointed his head and cooperated more and more tacitly. The two attacked and drove the Wild Pig King halfway through the blood. Other teams saw the situation and tried to change their strategies, hoping to get rid of the crowd, but Chenxi was ready to use the Eye of Data to determine the scope of the Wild Pig King's collision, allowing other players to suffer the consequences and be hit and flee out. This girl is something. The ridicule on the scene turned into amazement, and Chenxi's name began to be spread among the warriors. In the end, only 10% of the blood bars of the Wild Pig King remained. Chenxi grabbed the stiffness after the last collision and exploded with all his strength. After a few short spears, he finally knocked the boss down. The system prompts, players, Chenxi, and Yinghui completed the first boss killing, won the competition, and won 100 copper coins and rare equipment Wild Pig Protector. The whole scene was quiet, and then a hot discussion broke out. This is too powerful to assist in the career. Chenxi is right. I remember it, and I will team up to find her in the future. Chenxi stood in the middle of the competition venue, gasping heavily, and an unprecedented sense of accomplishment ripped in her heart. Jinghui ran over and hugged her excitedly. Chenxi, you are so awesome. I knew you were not simple. In the future, we will just be iron-mounted files, how about it? Chenxi was stunned for a moment, her face was slightly red, and she said in a low voice, well, thank you, Yang Hui. She opened the attribute panel and found that her level had directly risen from level 1 to level 3, and her name also appeared on the ranking list, number 1 in the novice village list. Although this is just a small list, for Chenxi, this is her first step in reversing the situation. Ranking list. Chenxi clenched his fists and his eyes were fixed. She knew that this was just the beginning. The bigger challenge is still ahead, and the real path of legend has just begun. Number of words, about 3,800 words. Chenxi and Yang Hui stood on the novice village, and the winning competition just ended made the two of them become subjects in the small range. Players around the arena often cast curious eyes, and several teams even took the initiative to come forward to ask whether they could form a team. Chenxi was a little unsuitable for this kind of attention. She stood beside her head, holding her fingers restlessly at the corner of her clothes. Chenxi, don't be nervous. We are now stars in the novice village. Shihui smiled and patted her on the shoulder. Her optimistic personality made her not care about the surrounding gaze. The cooperation in the competition was great just now. I think we can try more difficult challenges, such as dungeon missions. What do you think? Chenxi raised his head, hesitated for a moment, and pointed it at the head. Well, the dungeon mission experience and bonus are higher, which is helpful for improving the level. However, we may not be enough for 2 of us, and the dungeon generally requires a team of 5. This is a good job. I just added a few players' friends, they are all recognized in the competition, the skills are good, and people rely on them. Let's form a team, how about it? Shihui opened the friend list excitedly and quickly sent out several team invitations. It took no time for 3 players to join the team. One is a warrior with ID, iron, with a strong body shape, holding a big trumpet, responsible for the front row's resistance to injury. The other is an assassin with ID, wind blade, taciturn, good at long-term explosion output. The last one is an archer with ID, Qing trumpet, with a bright personality and responsible for long-distance pressure. With Chenxi's analyst and Wei's logistics wizard, the 5-person team was officially formed. Chenxi, I heard that you are the MVP of the competition, take us to fly. The Iron grinned, his language full of expectations. Qing Yan also echoed, yes, there are not many teams in our novice village that can beat the violent wild pig king. You must have unique skills. Chenxi was so angry that her face was a little red, and she said in a short voice, I just analyzed the data, and the battle depends on everyone's cooperation. Let's take the copy task first and try it. The team quickly selected the first goal on the mission board, a copy of the dark mining near the novice village. The difficulty rating is normal plus, and the recommended level is 3 to 5, with the prizes including experience, copper coins and low-level equipment. The background of the dungeon is occupied by a powerful, mine giant beast, in depth, and players need to hit it to get through. The team members checked the downloaded equipment, confirmed that the preparation was completed, and sent it into the copy. The inside of the dark mining cave is dim and damp, with a smell of iron in the air, and under the feet is the stone road that is ripped away from home and growls. In the morning light, the eye of data automatically scans the surrounding environment, and a row of data appears in the field. The terrain is narrow, suitable for positioning and fighting. The air humidity is high, which affects the archer's hit rate by 5%. The monster, Minder Bat, has low attack power, but has a mass toxic effect. Be careful, there is a group of monsters in front of you, and the bats will release poisonous fog. Iron, you stand in front of you to pull hatred. The wind blade cuts into the side wings. Chinger pays attention to the position, and do not enter the scope of poisonous fog. Be smart, prepare group detoxification skills. Chenxi's language is very fast, clear, and his introverted personality is completely replaced by cold silence when analyzing. Okay, I'll hear you. The iron led the big shot forward, and the resurgence attracted the attention of more than 10 bats. After Feng Blade's figure roamed to the side like a ghost, the dagger flashed and quickly harvested his blood. The blue horn pulls the distance open, and the arrow hits the bat that falls far away with a precise hit. Shihue wields the staff behind him, and a green light covers the entire team, removing the effect of poisonous fog. The battle is extremely smooth, and the Dawn Eye of Data constantly analyzes the bat's movement mode, giving the best attack points and dodge times. In less than 5 minutes, the group of monsters was emptied and the team had no hair. The Iron Master couldn't help but give a thumbs up. Chenxi, your finger is so awesome. As you fight, it feels like you are opening. Chenxi lowered his head and smiled, not answering, but a sense of accomplishment arose in his heart. The team continued to go deeper, cleared a few waves of monsters along the way, and finally arrived at the deepest part of the mine, a huge underground cave, with a large, mine giant beast, in the center. This boss is made of black mines, over 5 meters tall. The attribute panel shows attack power 25, defense power 20, and the thick blood volume is far behind. There is also a scope skill, seismic wave, which can cause group dizziness. This guy is not easy to deal with. The defense is so high, are we going to get enough? Qing Yang's eyebrows and the arrow shot out. Probably, only one piece of blood was removed. Chenxi, what strategy do you have? Wei Hui looked at her, her eyes full of trust. Chenxi did not rush to answer, and activated the Eye of Data to conduct in-depth analysis of the boss. In the field, the data of the giant beast spreads like a waterfall. The weakness is on the back core, and the defense force is only 8, but the core is protected by a mine layer and the outer layer must be destroyed first. The seismic wave is released every 15 seconds, with a range of 20 meters, and there is a forward movement of 2 seconds before release, and fine cracks will appear on the ground. In addition, there is a relaxed rock at the top of the cave, which can use the terrain to create additional damage. Iron, you can get hatred, run around the boss, don't stand and resist. The wind blade, attack the back, try to destroy the mine. Qingshou, aim at the loose rock at the top of the cave, and hit the boss, causing additional damage. Wei, pay attention to the time of seismic waves, and add protection buffs to everyone in advance. Chenxi said, and the key points on the terrain were marked. The team members were at the forefront and quickly entered the battle. The iron roared, attracted the attention of the giant and began to run in circles. The wind blade dived behind the back, the dagger continued to stab, and cracks began to appear on the mine layer. Qing Luo opened the distance, and the arrow hit the top of the cave accurately. Several huge rocks fell down, and the blood fell a small part of the giant beast. The earthquake wave is coming, pay attention to the cracks on the ground and hide to the left. Chenxi suddenly shouted. As the voice fell, a small crack appeared on the ground under the giant foot, and then a strong shock wave exploded. The team members followed her prompts to avoid it in time. Only the iron reacted half a beat slower, and was wiped from the middle and lost 1/3 of the blood. Iron, don't force it, and let the shui add blood after retreating. Chenxi pointed coldly, and continued to observe the flow of the giant beasts. After several rounds of cooperation, the mine layer was finally broken by the wind blade, revealing the core of the back. Chenxi seized the opportunity. All members gather the core of fire, maximize output. The team exploded all firepower, the wind blade's attack, the blast arrow of the blue, and the iron's heavy hit, and the buff of the turret. The blood strip of the giant beast dropped rapidly. The last shot was completed by Chenxi. She rushed forward, and the short sword penetrated into the core accurately. The giant roared and fell to the ground. The system prompts, the team completed the first pass of the dark mining dungeon, with a bonus experience of 500, a copper coin price of 50, and a piece of equipment at random. The team members' level upgraded, Chenxi directly upgraded from level 3 to level 5, and her name on the ranking also climbed from first place in the novice village list to the top 50 in the region list. Chenxi, your brain is absolutely dead. If you hadn't discovered the terrain loopholes and the weakness of the boss, we would have thought it would be a big deal. The iron slapped her shoulder excitedly, and the force made Chenxi stumble for a moment. Yes, the first copy is not a trivial matter. Our team's reputation will definitely increase. Qing Yan also smiled and opened the forum, uploaded the video, and specially marked the ID of Chenxi. Chenxi felt a little embarrassed and said in a low voice, "Thank you everyone." In fact, he still cooperated well. When Shihui came over, she smiled and said, "Don't worry, Chenxi." But when she came back, I just browsed the forum and found that the news we communicated had been published. Many people were asking who you are, and some guilds would even want to pull you into the team. Chenxi was stunned for a moment, and before he could respond, the system suddenly issued a full server announcement. Player, Yuting, completed the first pass of the Fire Deep Clean Land difficult dungeon, and ranked first in the entire server ranking, and awarded a piece of historical and simplified equipment. Yuting, the number 1 in the ranking? Chenxi murmured, and when he clicked on the list, he saw that Yuting's level had reached 15th level, and his combat power value was more than 10 times that of hers. The discussions about him in the forum are even more impressive. Some people call him the cold-blooded war, and some people say he is the strongest single player since the game started. This guy is really changing, and the Earth difficulty copy can be accessed in one go. Compared with him, we are still a little fish. The iron slammed his head, his language was filled with emotion. Chenxi didn't say anything, but just clenched his fists silently. The first place in the rankings is far away like the stars in the sky, but a light that is unwilling to be seen igniting in her eyes. A few days later, Chenxi and the reputation of the team members finally spread in the novice area, and the forum even showed the name, Data Genius Chenxi. More and more players are actively applying to join the team, but Chenxi still chooses to maintain a fixed team with Yuhui, Hardwood and others, focusing on improving their strength. This day, a public competition was held in the region, with the prizes including rare equipment and a large number of experience values, attracting a large number of players to register. Chenxi's team also registered and participated, successfully passed the pre-selected competition and entered 16 strong. The competition venue is a huge round competition venue, with the audience crowds, and the system has activated the actual live broadcast function, allowing players across the server to watch. Chenxi, the opponents in this competition are not simple. I heard that there are several team leaders who are among the top 10 in the region. Shihui reminded her little voice, with a little worried look in her eyes. It's okay, we will fight step by step. Chenxi's analysis ability will definitely win us. The iron ruler was full of confidence, and Feng Ren and Qing Yan also pointed to agree. The competition was held at the first round, and the team of Chenxi used precise data analysis and tacit cooperation to successfully advance to the fourth level. However, the half-decided opponents made the audience burst into flames. Yuding was led by the team, followed by the number 1 in the server, and the team members were all top 20 experts. Yuting. Why would he participate in this low-level competition? The iron stared wide in surprise, his language full of confusion. Maybe I heard about Chenxi and came to fight for the newcomer. This guy has a very cold personality and never shows mercy. Qingyan browsed and analyzed with a low voice. Chenxi didn't say anything, but just silently activated the eye of data and tried to analyze the attributes of Yuding. However, the flow of data in the field made her heart sank. Yuding's combat power value is extremely high, and the skill combination is all high level and rare, with almost no weakness at all. His team members are also top-notch and have completely crushed data layers. Chenxi, what should I do? This is probably the case. Shihui asked in a short voice, his language was full of worry. Try it, it doesn't matter if you lose it. At least you can collect more data. Chenxi bit his lips tightly, his eyes firmly. She knew that the results of this game were almost decided, but she didn't want to give up. At the beginning of the competition, Yuding's team showed its inverted power. His operation is as precise as a machine, and every skill is stuck at the best time, and teammates cooperate without any breakthrough. Chenxi trial uses the eye of data to find a breakthrough, but Yuding seems to have expected her strategy long ago and will always block her combat arrangements in advance. Earthquake. Yuding shouted coldly, and the giant sword in his hand slashed out, the ground burst, the team in the morning was directly hit and the iron blood strip was instantly cleared. Feng Blade tried to steal the picture, but was killed instantly by Yuting with a backhand skill. Qingyan and Yuhui couldn't help but save the two wheels, and only Chenxi was left on the field. Data analysis? The child's trick. Yuding looked at her coldly, his lingering was full of disdain. The rankings are not something newcomers like you can touch, please understand. Chenxi bit her teeth tightly, and a sense of humiliation surged in her heart. She tried to counterattack, but Yuding's speed and strength were not of the same level as the same level. After a few moves, her blood strips were also cleared. The system prompts, the Yaoding team won the victory and the grading competition is over. The audience burst into hot calls, and Yuding's name once again became the focus. Chenxi silently withdrew from the competition venue and returned to the team rest area, and said in a low voice. Team members tried to comfort her, but she just shook her head and said in a short voice, I'm sorry, I couldn't find a breakthrough. Don't say that, Chenxi, Yuding's guy is the first in the server, and it's normal for us to lose. Shihui hugged her lightly and comforted her voice, aside, this competition made me see something that was not right. Chenxi raised her head and asked in confusion, isn't it right? Yuhui's low voice, did you find it? Yuding's skill damage and attribute data are too much beyond the normal range. I checked his historical battle records in the background and found that his combat speed was completely inconsistent with logic, as if he had been adjusted. Being adjusted? Are you saying that there are data behind the rankings? Chenxi narrowed his eyes slightly, and his heart was shocked. It's hard to say, but there must be a problem. Chenxi, we have to find out this matter clearly. If there are really cats in the rankings, then your path to go against the enemy will be even more meaningful. Yu Hui held her hand, her eyes firmly. At dawn, a flame ignited in my heart. Although this game has won, she is not angry. The Eye of Data records every move and every move of Yaoding, and these data will become the cornerstone of her counterattack. Failure is not scary, what is scary is losing your will to fight. She knew that one day, she would stand at the top of the rankings, so that Yuding would feel crushed. Yinghui, let's try more high-difficulty copies to improve our strength. At the same time, we will help me collect data related to the rankings. I want to find out the loopholes. Chenxi said in a low voice, his spirit is full of determination. No problem, ironwork. Let's fuck the game together. Shihui smiled and pointed, and the eyes of the two were full of tacit understanding. The noise of the competition venue has faded away, and the legendary Road of Dawn has just entered the real challenge stage. Number of words, about 3,800 words. Chenxi sat in a small winery near the Xinqiu district, and the dim light shone on her face, looking a little tired. On the side, Yang Hui was holding a virtual panel, quickly flipping through various posts and data records on the forum, with her eyebrows tightly locked. There was noisy noise in the winery, and many players were discussing the recent competitions and ranking dynamics, but Chenxi's attention was completely focused on the ropes provided by Yang Hui. Chenxi, look at this. Yu Hui pushed the panel in front of her and pointed to a battle data chart. This is the record of Yuding's single-pass dungeon in the Fire Deep land last month. His combat value suddenly surged by 30%, and his skill cooling time was 2 seconds less than the system standard. This did not meet the game rules at all. The morning light was low and carefully checked. The eye of data was automatically activated, and a series of abnormal data flows appeared in the field. Yuding's equipment properties, skill values, and even the hit rate and flash rate in the battle all showed unnatural fluctuations. Her fingers tapped the desktop lightly, and her verb was low. This is not a data that a normal player can reach. Someone modified his attributes in the background, or said that the rankings themselves are a tool to be manipulated. So I said there is something wrong. Yu Hui's voice was low, and there was a flash of anger in her eyes. I also found out that among the top 10 players in the list, there are several players like Yuding, whose data improvement speed is completely inconsistent with logic. Moreover, behind these people, they are related to a guild called Shadow Alliance. There is a rumor on the forum that this guild has links with the game operator, specializing in controlling competitions and lists, and earning real wealth. Shadow Alliance. Chenxi murmured, a chill in her heart. She knew that the silly fantasy was not only a game, but also a field of interest. The top players in the rankings can be directly converted into a huge bonus in reality. If someone really controls it, then this game would have lost its fairness long ago. Chenxi, we can't just forget it. If the rankings are fake, what's the meaning of your and my efforts? Yan Hui clenched her fists and said with a firm voice, I think we have to stand up and expose all this. Chenxi was silent for a moment. She was introverted and didn't like to be at risk, but her wise words ignited the struggle in her heart. She was ridiculed and ignored, and now she finally has the opportunity to prove herself. How can she let an unfair game destroy everything? She raised her head, and her eyes were filled with a sense of determination. Okay, smart. We will participate in higher-level competitions and use our strength to attract attention from the entire server. As long as I show enough influence in the competition, I can force the mafia behind the scenes to reveal my feat. Yes. We will start with the regional competition. This competition is a live broadcast of the entire server, with a generous reward and attracting many experts to participate. If you make a big splash in the competition, it will definitely cause an impact. Shihui clapped her hands excitedly, and then she felt a little worried, but Yuding and his team will definitely participate, so we have to prepare for it. It's okay. Chenxi's mouth slightly raised. I learned a lot from the last time I sent it to him. This time, I won't understand it easily anymore. The registration of the regional competition was completed quickly. Chenxi and Yang Hui reconvened the Iron Mark 6, Fengbian and Qingzhao to form a 5-person team. The competition is located in the Sky Dome competition field, a huge platform floating above the cloud layer, surrounded by endless space and magnificent atmosphere. The competition rules are a 5v5 team to compete, adopt the elimination system, and the winners will be promoted. In the end, the champion will receive a bonus of historical equipment and full server list single points. On the day of the competition, there were crowds of visitors around the competition venue, and the system live broadcast channel even attracted hundreds of thousands of players. As the Black Horse in Xinqiu, the team is already well known in the region, but compared with the top teams in the top 10, their combat data is still at a disadvantage. Chenxi, the competition is quite pressured. The first round opponent is the fire fighting team, and the team leader, Yanxin, is the top 5 in the region. He is good at group fire magic, and his damage explodes. The iron leader looked at the opponent's information and couldn't help swallowing. It's okay, we're not afraid with Chenxi. Qing'an smiled and patted Chenxi on the shoulder, his language was full of trust. The dawn point is the head, the eye of data is activated, and the opponent's open battle record is quickly analyzed. Yan Xian's skill combination is mainly based on range magic. The weakness is that the skill is longer before it is swept, and the magic value is consumed very high, so lasting battle is not good for him. In addition, his team members cooperated tacitly, but the back row was not protected enough and it was easy to be cut into. Iron Mark, Yu and Feng Blade are responsible for controlling the flame heart, forcing him to release skills frequently and consume magic values. Qing Wang specializes in the back row wizard and healing, and creates pressure. Wei prepares protection buffs and blood recovery at any time. Chenxi quickly arranges the battle technique, and the language is cold and clear. At the beginning of the competition, the Flames team indeed showed strong pressure. Yan Xian raised his hand and made a move of firestorm. The sea of fire instantly covered half of the competition field, and the Iron's blood bar dropped by 1/3. The audience attended the meeting and discussed, this new team is over, Yan Xian's AoE can't hide at all. However, the morning light is ready. Through the eye of data, she judged the expansion range of the Sea of Fire and pointed out the teammates to disperse their positions in advance to avoid all members being affected. The iron rushes forward with the damage on its head, resisting the skill of the flame heart. The wind blade rushes from the side wings, and repeatedly slams the casting of the flame heart. Qing's arrow shot towards the back row like rain, forcing the other party to treat the disease. This team is a bit interesting. Yan Xian narrowed her eyes and looked at the team in Chenxi for the first time. He increased the output and tried to quickly end the battle, but his magic value was quickly enough and his skill release rate dropped significantly. Chenxi seized the opportunity and shouted loudly, "All members gather the Heart of Flames, now is a breakthrough." The team's firepower was fully opened, Yan's heart working line was quickly cleared, and then other members fell down one after another. The system prompted, the team of the Morning Light has won the victory and will be ranked next round. The audience burst out with hot palms, and the screens in the live broadcast channel flooded the screen, this newcomer team is too fierce. Yan Xian was actually torn to death. Chenxi, how do you know if the flame heart magic value is useful? After the competition, the Iron couldn't help asking, and was full of admiration. Data analysis. Chenxi answered simply, with a little more confidence in her eyes. She knew that this victory was not only a testimony of strength, but also an important step on her way backwards. In the following competitions, Chenxi's team fought and defeated several top teams, becoming the biggest black horse in this competition. Her eye of data has a surprising effect in every game. No matter how complex the battles are, she can always find breakthroughs and develop the best strategies. There are more and more discussions on the forum about Data Genius Morning, and some even predict that she has the potential to hit the entire server rankings. Chenxi, we are now in the full server focus, and the live viewing has exceeded 1 million people. Shihui checked the data happily, and then lowered the sound, but, I just received the news that the opponent in the game was Yuding's team. They have been crushing all the way, but they have never passed one scene. The dawn is light, and the heart is not surprised. She knew that as the first in the server, Yuding would become her Land Rover long ago. But this time, she has prepared for it. Over the past few days, she and Yang Hui have collected a large amount of data about Yuding and the Shadow Alliance, and found that his abnormality in combat is not only modified from background, but also related to a hidden amplifier plugin. This plugin can improve properties in a short time, but it will cause data fluctuations and become an exploitable crack. Ying Hui, when deciding on the game, we will help me record all the data flows of Yuding, especially the abnormal fluctuations after the skill release. I have a feeling that this competition will bring us closer to the truth. Chenxi said in a low voice, his eyes firm. No problem, leave it to me. Jinghui pointed at the head, and the two of them smiled at each other, with a tacit understanding. On the day of the game, the atmosphere of the Sky Games reached its peak. The audience was filled with noise, and the live broadcast channel almost burst into pieces. Chenxi versus Yaoding, this is the battle between the Black Horse and the War God. Yaoding will definitely crush you, no matter how bad Chenxi is, he is just a newcomer. At the beginning of the competition, Yaoding's team showed its strength to destroy. Every time his giant storm swept, it brought terrifying waves, and the Dawn team could hardly resist it. The first one of the iron fell down, and then there were Feng Blade and Qing Wang. The blood recovery skill of Wei was barely supported, but it was impossible to reverse the situation. I'm still too weak. Yaoding looked at Chenxi coldly, his temperament filled with disdain. I thought you could bring some surprise, but it seems that I overestimated it. The morning light bit his teeth tightly, and the eye of data moves with all his strength. The data flow in Yaoding in the field keeps flashing abnormally. After each time he activates his ultimate move, his combat value will rise briefly and then fall back, and the avoidance rate will drop by 15% during the period. This is the side effect of the amplification plug-in, and it is also her only breakthrough. Yinghui, help me fight for 10 seconds. Chenxi shouted softly and quickly adjusted his position. Wei Hui pointed the head, urged the staff to release the protection boundary, and resisted Yaoding's next attack. Chenxi seized this short gap and walked to the side of Yaoding. She slammed and attacked the weakness of the eye mark. Looking for death. Yaoding snorted coldly and slashed with a backhand, but Chenxi had a prejudgment, so he avoided it in vain. His blood finally dropped a small part, and the audience burst into flames. Bottle, the morning light hit Yaoding. This is the first time that someone has injured him. However, this damage is far away. Yaoding quickly adjusted the war, and his skills were continuously released, and the blood strips of Chenxi were quickly emptied. The system prompted, the Yaoding team won the victory and won the regional competition technical championship. The audience burst into thunderous sounds, and Yaoding's name once again became the focus. The morning light retreated to the rest area, and the lower his head was silent, and his heart was filled with a sense of frustration. Yan Hui walked over and patted her shoulder lightly. Don't be discouraged, morning light. You just injured Yaoding, it's already a miracle. Moreover, I recorded his data fluctuations, and there was indeed a problem, and the marks of the amplification plugin were very obvious. Chenxi raised her head and her eyes gradually recovered. Yinghui, sort out the data and post it to the forum. I want all server players to know the truth behind the rankings. I have also found Yaoding's combat breakthrough, and next time, I will not reprint it. No problem. Let's expose the traits of the Shadow Alliance together. Yang Hui held her hand, and the two of them had an unprecedented determination. After the game, although Chenxi's name failed to win, she became a black horse that is closely watched in the entire server. The discussion about her in the forum has not decreased, and some players even began to doubt Yaoding's abnormal data. Chenxi knew that this failure was only temporary. Everything recorded by the Eye of Data will become her weapon of counterattack. She and Yu Hui are in close proximity to the truth. Yaoding, there is also the Shadow Alliance. Chenxi stood outside the competition venue, looking at the remote air, clenched his fists. Next time, I will break your rules with my hands. Terms, about 3,750 words. Chenxi sat in a virtual wine shop near the Vanhuan Yuan Xinsho district, and the dim light reflected her focused expression. On the side, Yu Hui was hitting the virtual panel at a speed to sort out all the data collected recently. Players in the winery discussed the game, and many people were still in the hot area to compete for the results of the technical competition. Occasionally, some people looked at curiously, but Chenxi's attention was completely focused on the abnormal data flow on the panel. Chenxi, the data has been sorted out. Yu Hui pushed the panel in front of her, with a slight rush and tightness in her language. Yaoding's war fluctuations, the usage records of the amplification plugin, and the abnormal performances of Shadow Alliance members in multiple competitions were all marked. I also found some anonymous players' revelations, saying that Shadow Alliance and the game operators have direct interests in high-level relationships, and the rankings have long become their withdrawal machines. Chenxi looked carefully and looked at it carefully. The eye of data was automatically activated, and dense abnormal marks appeared in the field. Yuding's strength increased after each ultimate move, the shortening of the skill cooling time, and even his teammate data showed unnatural synchronization. She tapped the desktop with her fingers lightly, and her voice was low. These certificates are enough. As long as they are made public, they will definitely attract the attention of the entire server. You are ready for the forum posts, and I will draft the specific content. No problem. We are going to do a big thing this time so that all players will know the truth of the rankings. Shihui clenched her fists, her eyes full of struggle. Late that night, a post titled, "The Shadow of the Void Element Ranking, Data Manipulation and Shadow Alliance's Odyssey," appeared in the game's official forum. The post was published under the name of Dawn and Sun Hui, detailing the abnormal data records of Yuding and Shadow Alliance members, and attached video clips from multiple competitions as evidence. The article directly points out that the game operator connects with the Shadow Alliance, and uses the amplification plugin and background modifications to control the ranking results, which harms the interests of ordinary players. As soon as the post was posted, it quickly detonated the entire server. In less than an hour, the number of views exceeded 1 million, and the comment area was instantly flooded by angry players. Bog, is this true? Are the rankings all fake? I said, why did Yuding's combat effectiveness improve so quickly? It turned out to be a ban. Chenxi and Yanghui are awesome, dare to stand up and expose the dark side and support you. Some players even launched protest activities directly within the game, and thousands of people gathered in the main city square, shouting, "I'm fair game." Chenxi and Yanghui sat in the winery, paying attention to the forum movements in fact. Shihui slapped the table happily. Chenxi, it's successful. Players are all standing next to us, and the operator will definitely not be able to sit still. The dawn is light, there are not many waves in my heart. Introverted, she doesn't like this kind of high-profile exposure, but she knows that this is the only way to change the rules of the game. She said in a low voice, the next key is the key. If the operator wants to calm the discussion, he must respond. We must be prepared to face greater challenges. As expected, the next morning, the official IVF issued an emergency announcement. In response to recent doubts about the fairness of rankings by players, our company will check the relevant data and hold a full-service peak competition in 3 days, and the entire competition will be held open and transparent, without any backstage action. In the end, the champion will directly top the ranking list and receive a real prize of 1 million yuan. The teams participating in the competition are the number 1 in the ranking list, the Yuding team and the Chenxi team of the exposer, and hope that the big players will supervise it. As soon as the announcement was released, the whole server was in full bloom again. The live broadcast channel was opened in advance, and millions of players rushed into the discussion, and the screen almost burst out. This is a battle of the century. Who can win against Yuding? The operator wants to use the competition to cleanse it up, but if Chenxi wins, the Shadow Alliance will be over. Support Chenxi and defeat Yuding. Chenxi looked at the announcement, her eyes calmly. She knew that this competition was not only a test of her strength, but also a final test of her growth. The shadows of the past introversion, inferiority, and ridiculedness turned into a group of flames, burning on her chest. Chenxi, our team must be ready to fight. The Iron and the others are already waiting for the news. I will gather everyone up. Shihui stood up, her language full of expectations. Okay, we will focus on training these 3 days. I will reanalyze all the battle data of Yuding and find every breaking point of his. Chenxi said in a low voice, the light of the data I flashed in her pupils. The 3-day wartime was fleeting, and Chenxi and the team members used every minute and every second to conduct high-strength training. She repeatedly analyzed Yuding's war through the eye of data and found that although the amplification plugin can improve its combat power, it will cause a 0.5-second data delay after each use, which is a fatal break. In addition, Yuting's team has been too dependent on his personal output, and the side wings are not protected and are easily blocked. Iron, you are responsible for controlling Yuting directly, don't fight hard, just delay time. The wind blade, specializes in the side wings, cuts into their back range treatment. Qingzong, is forced to change their position. Shihui, prepares protection and recovery at any time, and protects the wind blade at a high price. Chenxi quickly arranged the war in the training ground, his language was cold and clear, and his introverted personality had long been replaced by the failure of the war ground. Okay, morning light, I'll hear you. The iron grinned, and the teammates were busy, and the military was high. On the day of the competition, the venue where the wind peak was confronted was set in the eternal way. This is a giant competition venue floating in the starry sky without any stars. It is surrounded by a stream of shiny galaxies, majestic. The audience was already full of trouble. The number of viewers in the live broadcast channel exceeded 10,000, and the curtain passed like snowflakes. Come on the morning light. Kill Yuting. This competition decides everything, who wins is the true god. Before the competition began, Yuting walked into the field with his team. He was wearing heavy black armor and holding a giant sword in his hand, his air was cold and pressured. Seeing Chenxi, the corners of his mouth slightly sang, and his words were filled with disdain. I thought you would be in trouble, but I didn't expect to dare to die. Data analysis? In the face of absolute realism, it's just a joke. Chenxi didn't care about his pick, but just quietly developed the eye of data. The data flow of Yuting in the wild is clearly visible, the combat value is too high, but the traces of the amplification plugin still exist. She replied in a low voice, the strength is not built on the backstage. Today I will prove who is the real number one. Everyone will say it. Yuting snorted coldly, turned back into the team, with a cold light flashing in his eyes. The competition officially began, and at the moment when the system was over, Yuting's team took the lead in launching an attack. His giant drama slashed out a terrifying drama, and the scope of skill, splitting the earth, instantly covered half of the competition field. The iron was directly hit and the blood strip was dropped by 2/3. The audience attended the meeting and discussed, Yuting will use his big moves when he opens the venue. Chenxi and they can't stand it. However, the morning light is ready. Through the eye of data, she predicted the coverage of the drama, allowing teammates to disperse their positions in advance to avoid all members being affected. Although the iron was injured, it quickly retreated and was supported by Yuhui. The wind blade roams to the side wings like a ghost, and the daggers flash, directly cutting into the back row of Yuting's team to cure the disease. Looking for death. Yuting shouted angrily, turned around and released his skill to lock the wind blade, but Chenxi grabbed the gap in this moment and shouted loudly, Qingyan, press the center and force them to divide the troops. The green horn was shot out like rain, forcing the two teammates of Yuting to disperse their positions. Chenxi took advantage of the opportunity to move forward, and the short sword slammed, specializing in the 0.5-second delay window after the Yuting skill was released. Although her injuries were not high, she hit every stroke accurately, causing Yuting's blood to drop slightly. This little slut is really capable. Yuting narrowed his eyes, looking at the war in the morning for the first time. He increased the output and tried to kill the wind blade in seconds quickly, but Yang Hui's protection boundary was released at a time, and it helped the wind blade to sweep away a fatal blow. The battle has entered the white heat, and both sides have come and I go, and the blood is falling rapidly. Yuting's team took advantage of its absolute combat advantages and forced Chenxi's team into an extreme situation. The iron and Qingyan fell down, leaving only Chenxi, Yanhui, and Fengbian on the scene. The screens in the live broadcast channel flooded the screen, it's over, Chenxi and the others are going to lose. Yuting is too strong, and he can't beat him at all. However, the dawn did not shake. Through the eye of data, she discovered that after Yuting continued to use the amplification plugin, the time for data delay increased from 0.5 seconds to 0.8 seconds, and the action obviously became slow. She sniffed, Yinghui, add a moving buff and a wind blade to me, and prepare for the last wave of explosion. The swaying wisdom points the head, the staff moves, and a glimmer of light covers the morning light, increasing the movement speed by 10%. Chenxi grabbed the extension window after Yuding's skill, flexibly avoided his attack, and the short strike continued to slam, and combined with the explosion of the wind blade, he even grinded away half of Yuding's blood strip. The audience burst into flames. Bok, Chenxi has counterattacked. She really hurt Yuding. Mix. Yuding roared and tried to counterattack, but Chenxi had a prejudgment, and quickly opened the distance from the wind blade, and the war line was supported by Yan Hui's blood recovery skill. Yuding's teammates tried to support the picture, but the wind blade cut into the back row and killed the last one, breaking the other's rhythm in a row. Yuting, your amplification plugin is used too frequently, and the data delay has exposed your breakthrough. Chenxi said coldly, his eyes full of confidence, the ranking is not made by cheating. Yuding's face was so beautiful that he showed panic in the first time in the competition. He tried to explode the last attack, but Chenxi and Fengbian cooperated tacitly and delayed the time. Jinghui's blood recovery skill became the key support. In the end, Yuding's blood strip was cleared, and his teammates fell down one after another. The system prompts, the Dawn team won the victory, won the championship team in the championship, and directly ranked first in the entire server ranking. The whole scene was silent for a second, and then there was a thunderous sound. The players in the audience stood up and shouted, Chenxi! Chenxi! The live broadcast channel almost burst into pieces. It's amazing. Chenxi really beats Yuding. The data genius is not famous, this wave of reverse sweeps is too hot and bloody. The Shadow Alliance is over, and the fair game is back. Chenxi stood in the middle of the competition venue, gasping heavily, and an unprecedented sense of accomplishment ripped in her heart. Jinghui ran over and hugged her excitedly. Chenxi, you are so awesome. We win. The first place in all servers. Although Feng Ren was silent, he also showed a rare smile and expressed his admiration with a light head. Chenxi lowered her head and said in a low voice, thank you. I can't go this step without everyone. Although her voice was light, her language was full of true color. At this moment, she is no longer the girl with inferiority complex, but a true legend. The system announcement came out later. Players, Chenxi ranked first in the entire server rankings, won the historical vocabulary, Master of Data, and received a real bonus of 1 million yuan. The Illusion Dollar will conduct a comprehensive inventory of the ranking data to ensure the fairness of the game. Thank you for the support of the vast players. As soon as the announcement came out, the forum and game were boiling again. Chenxi's name became the most dazzling existence in the history of the immortal Yuan, and the sacredness of the Shadow Alliance was exposed in a short while. Yuding's ID disappeared from the rankings, and the account number that reported was permanently banned by the official. A few days later, Chenxi and Yanhui came to the main city building and prepared to rest in the lower line. During this period, they received thank you messages from countless players, and even a large guild took the initiative to invite them to join, but Chenxi refused one by one. She knew that her goal had been achieved, and it was time to return to reality and face a new life. Chenxi, 1 million dragon coins. What are you going to use? Shihui asked with a smile, her eyes full of curiosity. Chenxi thought for a while and said in a low voice, I will improve the conditions at home first. My father has been working hard, and this money can make them survive a little better. The rest, I want to donate to some people in need. I have also been ridiculed in the past, and now I hope to help more people. Of course. The dawn was light and her face was slightly red. Her introverted personality made her not very good at expressing her expression, but her eyes were full of gratitude. She knew that Yang Hui was not only an ally in the game, but also her most precious friend in her life. In reality, in the morning light took off her holographic helmet, and the sunlight outside the window entered the small rental house, illuminating her slightly white face. She opened her cell phone and a huge amount of money was added to the bank account, and the 1 million yuan figure made her a little dazed. The past ridicule and underestimated pressure are now dissipating. She stood up, walked to the lens, looked at her reflection, and smiled confidently for the first time. "Dad, Mom, I did it," she murmured lightly, slid over her face, but the corners of her mouth were swelling. A few months later, Chenxi used the bonus to buy a new house for his parents and moved into a small, spacious and bright apartment. She began learning programming and data analysis, preparing to apply the talents of the game to real-life things. And Yang Huiyan really came to meet her. In reality, the two became indifferent and indifferent. Occasionally, they would log into the void element together to replenish their original passion and blood. In the ranking list of the immortal, the name Chenxi has always ranked first and has become an immortal saying. When players mention her, they always say, "That's a girl who uses data to change the game." She proves that as long as she has faith, everyone can become a legend. The story of the morning light is full of sentences. Number of words, about 3,800 words.